I'm going to dive into a familiar name. We haven't spoken to Vishanti in California in a while. Hi, Vishanti.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Let me read the notes here. It says, Christians needing to hold other Christians accountable, and that non-believers shouldn't reinforce the idea that fundamentalists are the real, quote-unquote, believers. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. So hit us. I'm sure you have a thought that you want to kind of bounce against us.
Several. I wanted to kind of bring this up last week, but time just ran out. Lately, there's been a lot of bad behavior from self-identified Christians, far-right nationalists, those sorts. And when they act out in public arenas, frequently there's pushback from other self-identified Christians who are like, no, those aren't true Christians. They aren't real Christians. They're not being Christ-like.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not speaking on behalf of all Jews, but as a Jew, I am exhausted and I'm tired of them trying to wash their hands of it. Like, no true Scotsman and an appeal to purity. It doesn't help anybody. It's just their way of saying, well, not my circus, not my clowns. It's someone else's job. It's a way for them to comfort themselves emotionally and not have to do the work. And that's not helpful. It's allowing it to perpetuate. And that's incredibly frustrating. We've had a lot of discussions in various social media about that. And you'll see various politicians get up and they'll say ridiculous things or behave in violent ways or promote really, really harmful ideologies. And it's just this mixture of people who are going, they're not really in my category. And then other people going, why aren't you holding them accountable? Yeah. Take out your own trash.
Well, I mean, it's kind of an ideology where you get to wash your hands of any responsibility and just say, well, God forgives me because I asked inside my head. And that doesn't just stay in that one tiny little box,
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh. It makes me think of a recent caller that we had, Mr. Delicious, I think, or Mr. Delicieux.
I missed this.
Yeah. It's the,
he doesn't like me. He knows that I don't like him, and I am perfectly fine with that.
Well, I'm glad I hit a chord there. You know what I'm talking about. For people who don't know what we're talking about, I'll try and remember to put a link in the description for this clip. That said, Mr. Delicious was one of those people who recently called in, and anytime that I brought up a problem or an issue in the arguments that he was giving, he said, no, real Christians don't do that. Well, they're not Christians because they don't follow the scripture exactly like I do it, because they don't count. The only people that count are the people like me. Except in reality, probably the only one like Mr. Delicious is Mr. Delicious.
I was going to say, so he's the only Christian then.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm glad there probably are not more. There may be similar, but when it comes
very
to
tiny numbers,
when it is something that I don't know. Then again, I look at politicians here in the United States and I realize that a lot of people can put their heads up their butts. So maybe it's not as uncommon as you think.
Yeah, well, I mean, his whole thing about, we know he cherry picks and he's fine with his cherry picking, but all Christians cherry pick. They're also fine with their own cherry picking. That's why there's thousands Christian denominations. So you've got thousands of other Christians saying, well, we're the true Christians. No, we're the true Christians. No, you're the fake ones. You're the pretenders. And it's like, guys, stop. Stop. No one outside of that baseball team cares. You need to deal with this internally.
Yeah.
We don't care what your theology is. We care about how you're behaving in public and affecting people.
Yep.
And there's just continual refusal to deal emotionally or practically with these bad actors is it just honestly, it pisses me off.
When you're working from a bad playbook,
Yeah, and I mean, so I think we had a caller last week who called in to specifically talk about the verse in Romans that says that if you leave us, you were never one of us, right?
Right.
You have, the verse, I think it's in Corinthians. Correct me in the live chat, that says that the fool believes in their heart that there is no God. Only the fool, so if you don't believe, then you're a fool.
That's from Psalms and Proverbs.
Is it? I probably fucked that up. Thank you. I appreciate the correction. But yeah, it just, there are so many different justifications people give directly from the playbook. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I mean, the canon ideas can be harmful, and they have been used to harm. They harm people emotionally, they harm people physically. Christianity has a very well-documented history of harming people through colonization and things like inquisitions and pogroms and whatnot. So there is no justifiable way to make an argument that it's not intrinsically something that can be used to harm.
Yeah.
Again, refusing to take accountability. Yes, these ideas can be harmful. People have used them many times to be harmful.
Yeah. We had a caller 2 weeks ago. I mean, you're right on it, Vishanti. That we had a caller 2 weeks ago who said that Christianity brought civilization to the native people.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I almost broke a window. I was so mad.
Oh yeah. That was nuts. But you're right, those ideologies are just so freaking dangerous. And we sit here on the outside and we go, what can we do? How can we? But ultimately, and by the way, it's not just Old Testament. It's not just, people who are consider themselves Jewish, because in the New Testament, the one that got me in my church, it wasn't those verses. It was, you will know them by their fruits.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, how do you know another Christian? Well, you will know them by what they do. And you will see it reflected in the actions of those people. So if they're doing good things, then they must be Christian. If they're not doing good things, that they must not be, by definition.
And that's what we call Christian supremacy.
You're right.
Because it's this idea that Christianity is intrinsically good, and that is not the case. Christians must be intrinsically good. So if you're doing something bad, well, then you can't be a Christian, because Christian equals good.
Yeah.
No, no. I've actually seen a lot of ex-Christians and people who identify as not theists, or even in some cases atheists. They actually end up upholding some of those ideas. They don't do some of the deconstruction work that's necessary to get out of those mindsets, and they kind of paint with this really broad brush, all religions are this way, and they all work like Christianity because that's the one they have the most reference for. And actually, most religions don't act like Christianity. They don't view their text that way if they have one. They don't have the same sort of moral framework. They don't, proselytize on the overwhelming majority of them. And, I actually saw some, self-identified ex-Christians who, specifically, this one lady was like, well, I haven't been in the Christian church for years and years and years, and there's no way that I could possibly be thinking like them, and wouldn't hear anything to the contrary. It's like talking to a wall.
Yeah. Vishanti, I don't think you're going to get any disagreement here. But I appreciate you. Excuse me. I appreciate you calling, because I think a lot of people need to know that they're not alone, and that those frustrations are real and valid.
Yeah. And anytime, we see people pushing back against, those kinds of ideas and the hegemony, we know who those people are. We appreciate them. And we're playing for that same team. We just want to do the best we can to live our lives, without interference and without people trying to, muscle us into this crazy little box. And it's really awesome when people step up to the plate like that,
Agreed.
So thank you for the people who do.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a really great job. So thank you.
Thank you.
And just you mentioned the Christian supremacy, and it is in part by design. It kind of helps push that Christian supremacy in order to, pass the buck and not take blame for the bad actors. It helps them towards, the theocratic end goal that we're seeing in our culture right now. Right. And a lot of this is purposeful. It is, talking about, people in the government, yeah. A lot of this stuff it doesn't happen by accident.
We actually have a caller on the line who wants to talk about religious persecution.
Oh, buddy.
So,
well, I will say that,
I think,
Kevin, you're right on, just people saying, like, as long as they're washing their hands of it, they're going to distance themselves and not actually help to participate in fixing the problem and pushing back. So long that the real bad actors are going to be a little too far gone by the time they decide to get off their lazy butt and do something. So
yeah,
hopefully we don't want to get to that point.
Yeah, stochastic terrorists, they don't do the act. They rile somebody up and they let them do it. And then they say, well, those are the bad actors.
Are we talking about like the Tucker Carlson types?
Oh, I'm talking about a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Vishanti, you need to start your own show. You have an incredibly gregarious personality. The way that you present yourself is amazing. And I feel like I would absolutely watch it. You should consider it.
That's something I'm working on. I actually used to be a teacher, and I love doing scholarly and academic nerd stuff.
Ooh.
So I'm trying to find the best way to combine those things to make something out of it. So we'll see.
Sounds good. And if you do, reach out to us because I would
best
love
of
to
luck.
watch.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you. Will do.
Bye, Vishanti.
Right, bye.
They were nice.
Yeah, I liked that. That was good.